All right, here we are, part two. We're trying to determine a ratio between airbox inlet size compared to the size of our radiator. So the reason we went and picked up Tony's part and dealt with him is because we know that Tony's data, real data, in real time, 2-cylinder engine, twice the displacement, 2 cylinders, the same, exactly double the size of what we're using. For those of you who don't know any better, his is a 250, ours is a 125. So it's going to make a bit more heat. It's got 2 little explosions going on there, right? So it's going to make some more heat. He sees 140F on water in 90 plus degree ambient days at the racetrack. So that's a good area for us to shoot for. His radiator is 21 inches wide by 11 inches tall, the cooling surface, the core, not counting the tanks or whatever. That equates to 231 square inches. You multiply 21 times 11. The box, the opening here of the box is, like I said in the other video, is 4 inches tall, 7 inches wide, plus he's got this other little 1 inch tall opening that's about 6.5 because of the width of the sides here. So we add those two together and we come up with 34.5 square inches of opening. So again, simple math, we take 231, the size of the radiator in square inches, 34.5, we divide 231 by 34.5, and we come up with 6.696. So the ratio is 6.69 to 1. For every 6.69 square inches of radiator cooling surface, we need 1 square inch of opening. And we're doing this. These numbers to me are workable because Tony is already running 140 degrees. Now this is enough to cool off a 2-cylinder. In theory, applying these same dimensional properties to a single-cylinder engine should be even better, right? So what are we shooting for? We're shooting for a 6.69 to 1 ratio with our size radiator, and so what kind of airbox are we looking at? And that's where we're going to go. The radiator on the back of the car, I just went over and measured it again just to be absolutely sure. And 8x12 were actual a little bit bigger size. Actual size is 11 3/4 tall by 7 1/4 wide, which ends up being 85 square inches. Do the math. So we get 85 square inches of cooling surface on the radiator. It's 3 core, so we're just the same thickness as Tony. So we're looking for 12.68 square inches of opening. And how do we come up with that? Well, we take 85, right? 85 square inches of radiator, and we divide by 6.69, and we come up with 12.70. Well, 668. Close. I must have went 6.7, but it's 12.7, and we're going to get as close to that as we can. And this is real simple now. A 6-inch tall opening that's 2 inches wide is going to yield us 12 square inches. We know that, right? 6 times 2 is 12. So we went in depth here a little bit, and I think we ended up with 6.5 tall, or 6.5 in one dimension. I'm sorry, times 2 gets us, that's 13. Anyway, we actually went 6.25 times 2 is 12.5. So that puts us right in the ballpark, right? Between 6 1/4 and 6.5 by 2. Now we can always make the 2 a little bit bigger and the 6.5 a little smaller, but I think that's what we want to do. We're looking for something. I see a picture of this thing myself, looking something like this here. And I just talked to Ace. Hey Ace, what's up, buddy? Ace Rossi down in Florida has something very similar to this as a clutch cooler, right, on his Enduro, his Yamaha Enduro, which has an axle clutch. And calling him, I looked around the other night looking for, because it's very similar looking to a rear wheel brake cooler on an open wheel car. Maybe not a modern open wheel car, but one, you've seen them in the past, right? So that's kind of what I was curious as to, did it work for Ace, and what the physical size of the opening was. He told me it was about 3 inches tall by about 1.5 inches wide. So exactly half probably of what we're looking for in 6.5 by 2. So I think that's what we're going to do. If you watch some of our Daytona video, where I come off the steering wheel and want to I want to hold the reach for the clutch because my water temperature is bouncing around, and without having the sissy Sprague hub to take the danger out of blowing your engine up, I just rest my hand on the clutch, and just in case after we realize it's not going to blow up, we don't do it all that much. But reaching down to adjust brake bias or whatever, especially on the oval, it looks like I'm waving at somebody, and it's because the air literally takes your hand right away from you, just like sticking it out the window of the car at 90 going down the highway, right? Except, at 120, 130, 140, it's even that much more so. So we know where the air is, right? I mean, not a fool. You don't need to be Dale Earnhardt to stick your hand out the window to feel the air, right, going around your car. I know where the air is at its most velocity coming over the bodywork in its configuration it is. So I think we want to do something like this, an opening like this, about 6.5 inches tall, 2 inches wide, close, not right up close to our head, but behind our head and more inboard than outboard on the cart. And I think that's what we're going to end up doing. All this, folks, is like I mentioned the other day with the exercise of engineering and keeping your mind working and hands occupied, and to keep your brain moving and thinking and growing is, it's theory. It's not going to take much to make one of these air boxes and literally try it. So going to be a little trial and error. Maybe we end up going with a little bigger hole, a little smaller hole. Inevitably, what we'd like to see, God willing, we make it over to Gingerman here in a month. Say the weather is like it was last year. It might be 58 to 62, kind of gray and cloudy and a little chillier. If we have to tape off whatever hole we have just to get 125, 130, then I think we're already there on a 90-degree day. But that's where we're headed. There's more to this air box of Tony's. As you can see here, it's literally split right in two in the center. Let me bring you right up in there. You see there's a vertical plane in there. Let me see if I can get, everything's opposite in the screen here. And it goes all the way through to the back side. Because the radiator is so far behind where the seat of the cart is here, and it goes all the way over behind him to the other side of the car, there's a vertical diverter in there that really the straight-in air is only feeding about a third or so of the radiator, and all the other air is directed to the far side because it won't naturally just go that way without this in there. We're going to do the same thing, but it's going to sit on our cart like this, so to speak, right? With the back of the car here, it's going to be scooped in this way, but it's still going to need to be diverted to that front side because it's going to want to come in and, path of least resistance is going to take it to the top or the rear of the radiator, and nothing going to be directed here. So we're going to do a little directing on the inside as well. Got nothing, no ambition to go to Hollywood, but being a director is in my genes maybe. So we'll see. But that's where we're at. 12.68 square inches of opening, 12.5 to 13. We'll probably go with the smaller number and work our way up from there. Actually, don't think I'm pretty confident that this is going to work straight away. Simply the size of the radiator, 3 cores instead of what we were using on the front and rear before. Capacity of water. My buddy Rick Gunther, how you doing? Rick's taught me a lot bringing his old school bus to the racetrack. They turn it into an RV, and he tells me the water capacity. Just putting a great big water tank in the system just so it carried more water helped cool his bus off. So you can learn something from a lot a lot of different applications. Other guys out there, Randy Johnson's got a lot of experience with the Ranch 74 guys, the race car guys, when they were not so much doing the Camaro stuff they're doing now, but the prototypes, Daytona prototypes and what have you, with angle of radiator. We'll get into that next time. I got a sweet little angle gauge here. Brother Kenny hooked me up with when he was working over there at Menards. Man, every time he found a new little gizmo, he'd bring it home and say, "Hey, you got any use for this?" I'm like, "Dude, of course I do." So we'll find out what the optimum angle is, and we'll try to get our radiator in that position if we can, and keep it below the bodywork. Keeping everything hidden, very important to us. First and foremostly, like I mentioned to Ace a little while ago, it's a fashion show out there. He's bringing up the fact that some of the guys were making fun of him about clutch coolers and stuff like that, and you don't go fast enough to make your clutch too hot and what have you. You know what? It doesn't matter. Karting at this level for us is a hobby, okay? I don't care if a go-kart shop guy is trying to make a living as a go-kart shop. It's still a hobby, and that's all there is to it. There's a big old bug up there. And so the guys that treat it that way and approach it that way, I think, are more level-headed than guys that think, I've got to make something of myself or whatever, the product I'm pushing or whatever in this hobby. Now, it happens in RC cars and planes. It happens in slot cars. It happens in go-karts. It'll happen in Pinewood Derby. It happens in everything. Anytime somebody puts up points or a trophy or award or something, somebody always seems to want it more than everybody else. And they'll do whatever they have to do to get it. So that's it. That's where we're at. We'll get to playing around with this thing. Probably tomorrow we'll start mocking up some shapes of the different profiles, the sides, the top, and all that stuff, and we'll bring you that as we go. But we're going to try to get over to Brother Rich's house and spray some gel on this side panel mold and get some fiberglass on it. If not today, in the next couple of days. We're rare day off at RPM today. We're a little burned out. Our back's sore. The place was a mess. Chuck did some cleaning and got the inside of the joint cleaned up. I need to get some of these tools and scrap and stuff put away. I told you before in an older video, when I move from one phase to another, I like to clean and start with a clean bench and all the tools back where we can find them. So that's what we'll do. We'll get her all packed up and cleaned up. If we got time, we'll get over to Rich's and get that fiberglass done, and we'll record a little of that for you too. But just working on a configuration of airbox for this radiator, and moving forward, hopefully, God willing, we'll get to Gingerman in a month and be able to do more testing, theory to reality, backed up by data. That's it. That's all I got for you. God bless you all. Godspeed. I'm praying for you. Pray for me. All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Take care.